What's up, guys? This is Chris from DraftDashboard.com. Here are my DFS picks for NBA Tuesday, April 5th. These picks apply for DraftKings and FanDuel. Before I get started, please drop a like on this video and hit that red subscribe button and hit that bell icon so you don't miss our new videos. In this video, I'm going to go over my top picks for today's NBA slate. And if you stick around to the very end of this video, we'll use the Draft Dashboard tools to make a DFS lineup using the picks we just made. Okay guys, we have a 12-game slate tonight, and I did a video yesterday where I gave you a handful of picks, and I had a lot more value in that video. This video, I've got a bunch of good mid-range players, so let's get into it. At the point guard position, I like Kevin Porter Jr. from the Houston Rockets playing the Brooklyn Nets, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They give up the 10th most fantasy points to opposing point guards. Kevin Porter Jr. has averaged 32.2 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 31 minutes per game with a 24% usage rate. But his usage rate is up, his minutes per game are up, his role on the team are way up over his season average numbers, and he's been on fire the past 3 games, scoring 43, 59, and 69 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 35, 38, and 37 minutes. So I think he can score 42 fantasy points or more, get you 5 times value or more. He's 8,300 DraftKings salary, 100 less on FanDuel. And I like this pick because Vegas thinks there's going to be 243.5 points scored in this game. So a super high scoring game and a great game to stack. So I like Kevin Porter Jr. here versus the Brooklyn Nets. So this slate is just filled with good mid-range players. You know, not the stud guys who are 10K, and not your value plays that are 4 or 5K, but that range right between 7 and 8,000 salary, more around the 8,000 salary range. It's just filled with good plays. You got Chris Paul at 8,200 with a great matchup versus the Lakers, 200 less on FanDuel. You got Fred VanVleet, who's playing really well for the Toronto Raptors, and he's playing a ton of minutes. He scored 48, 45, and 40 fantasy points in the last 3 games. He's 8,100 DraftKings salary, 700 less on FanDuel. Then you got Karis LeVert at 7K and 1,600 less on FanDuel. So I just love that FanDuel price. He scored 34 and 40 fantasy points the last 2 games, played 37 and 36 minutes. Then you got Tyler Hero, which I gave in yesterday's video, at 6,600, 300 less on FanDuel. And then you got D'Angelo Russell, 6,400 and 1,100 less on FanDuel. So I love that price on FanDuel for D'Angelo Russell. He's playing really well, scored 44 and 35 fantasy points in the last 2 games. Then I should say he's playing really well for the last 2 games. He's been kind of cold the 3 games before that. Actually, 3 out of his last 5 games, he scored 33 fantasy points or more. So that would definitely get it done, both on DraftKings, and he would crush value on FanDuel. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 234 points scored in this game. So there's a handful of good plays right there at the point guard and shooting guard position. But let me move on to the shooting guard position. Before I continue with the picks, I'm excited today because we added a new contest for everyone watching. If you want to enter the drawing for $25 PayPal, all you need to do is like this video,
hit that subscribe button and make a quick comment below to be entered into the drawing. We'll reply to a random comment and let you know that you won.
And we'll send you $25 PayPal.
So it's that easy, and we pick a new winner every Saturday and announce them in our video. So get your comment in now so I can add another entry for you.
I like Brandon Ingram. Where is he? There he is. Brandon Ingram from the New Orleans Pelicans playing the Sacramento Kings, who have the second worst defense overall, give up the sixth most fantasy points to opposing shooting guards, also eligible at the small forward position. Brandon Ingram has averaged 40 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 30% usage rate. And I think he can score 40 fantasy points or more in this matchup. Good matchup versus the Kings. Get you 5 times value or more. He's 8,000 DraftKings salary, 800 more on FanDuel. So I've got a player, Anthony Edwards, that I would prefer on FanDuel, who's only 7K on FanDuel. But Brandon Ingram on DraftKings at 8K, I like that. And Vegas thinks there's going to be 225.5 points scored in this game. Brandon Ingram has scored 29, 53, and 37 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 34, 34, and 27 minutes. So I like Brandon Ingram here versus the Sacramento Kings. So that's Brandon Ingram on DraftKings here versus the Sacramento Kings. Okay, let's take a look at the small forward position. And I just mentioned them. I like Anthony Edwards from the Minnesota Timberwolves playing the Washington Wizards, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing small forwards. Anthony Edwards has averaged 37.4 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 26% usage rate. He's projected at 37.9 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.1 times value. He's 7,500 DraftKings salary, 500 less on FanDuel, so I love that FanDuel price. Vegas thinks there's going to be 234 points scored in this game, and Anthony Edwards has scored 53, 41, and 44 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 35, 40, and 31 minutes. So I like Anthony Edwards here versus the Washington Wizards. And in yesterday's video, I also gave Gary Trent Jr. He's only 5,700 DraftKings salary, and he's 600 less on FanDuel. So I love that FanDuel price. He's in a good matchup here versus the Atlanta Hawks, projected at 30.4 fantasy points. And on DraftKings, that's 5.3 times value. And just should crush value over there on FanDuel if he can score 30 fantasy points or more. So I like that play as well. Let's take a look at the power forward position. I like Harrison Barnes from the Sacramento Kings playing the New Orleans Pelicans, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They've been pretty good versus opposing power forwards. Harrison Barnes has averaged 29.8 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 34 minutes per game with a 19% usage rate. He's projected at 30.9 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5 times value. He's 6,200 DraftKings salary, and he's 1,100 less on FanDuel. So we got a lot of super underpriced players on FanDuel. I think you can make a killer lineup if you plug in, a few of these underpriced players. Going to leave you with a ton of salary and a ton of upside. So Harrison Barnes has scored 35, 34, and 20 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 34, 36, and 34 minutes. And Harrison Barnes has scored 29, 40, 38, 42, and 45 fantasy points in his last 5 games versus the Pelicans. Vegas thinks there's going to be 225.5 points scored in this game. So I like Harrison Barnes, especially on FanDuel here versus the New Orleans Pelicans.
Real quick, guys, I got great news. For a limited time, we're offering a full 30-day trial to Draft Dashboard. You can try all of our DFS tools for all sports. You can try the Position Optimizer, where you can see the top players ranked for each position. And we added a new Player Trends tool, where you can see the top salary differences between FanDuel and DraftKings. It's a really good tool to help you pick out value for the site that you're playing on. Oh, and if you're tired of doing research every day, we just added a cheat sheet that shows hand-picked plays for the slate. No confusing stat lines, no headaches, just a simple cheat sheet that shows the absolute best players for your lineups.
Okay, moving on to the center position, you got Nikola Jokic, Joel Embiid, Karl Anthony Towns as your studs. But you know what? This slate, I think I'm going to go with more of these 6 to 8K range players because there's just so many good plays between 6 and 8K. I think you can just stack your lineup with great plays, and that means you wouldn't be able to fit a guy like the Joker or Jokic or Embiid or Karl Anthony Towns, but I don't think you're going to have to play those guys unless they go out and put up 75, 80 points, which they have been doing. So risky to fade those guys, but for me, I'm going to go with that balanced lineup, bunch of 7 and 8K range players. I think there's a lot of great plays in that salary range here tonight. And here's another one of them. Rudy Gobert from the Utah Jazz playing the Memphis Grizzlies, who have a middle-of-the-pack defense overall. They're middle-of-the-pack defending opposing centers. Rudy Gobert has averaged 41.3 fantasy points per game on the season, playing an average of 32 minutes per game with a 17% usage rate. He's projected at 44.9 fantasy points here tonight. That's 5.5 times value. He's 8,100 DraftKings salary, 300 more on FanDuel. Rudy Gobert has scored 45, 53, and 39 fantasy points in the last 3 games, playing 37, 36, and 38 minutes. And he scored 51 and 52 fantasy points in his last 2 games versus the Grizzlies. So I like Rudy Gobert here versus the Memphis Grizzlies. Okay, now I think this is an interesting play. Take a look at Alperen Sengun. He's from the Houston Rockets playing the Brooklyn Nets. And let's just take a look at him. Yeah, he's getting starting minutes because Christian Wood is out. So he played 32 minutes last game, put up 40 fantasy points. He's 6,700 DraftKings salary, and he's 900 less on FanDuel. And this is from that super high scoring game. The Vegas thinks there's going to be 243.5 points scored in this game. So I think this guy is worth a shot here. Now, you know, he scored 40 fantasy points in 32 minutes last game, but that's a somewhat small sample size as to what he's going to do with starter minutes. But I think that's a great start, and his salary is pretty reasonable, and his salary on FanDuel is fantastic. So I like Alperen Sengun here versus the Brooklyn Nets. Oh, real quick before you get out of here, if you want daily sports betting and player prop picks, we put a link to today's video with our NBA picks in the bottom of the description of this video. It's our new YouTube channel, so we would really appreciate it if you dropped a like on that video and subscribe to that new channel so it can help us get shown in the YouTube algorithm and you won't miss those daily NBA picks.
If you want to try all these daily fantasy tools for yourself, click the link in the description below this video or just go to draftdashboard.com. You can use our DFS lineup optimizer to build quality lineups using our picks and your own custom player pool. Click the link in the description below this video and try all these daily fantasy tools right now. Thanks so much for watching. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel and hit that bell icon so you can get instant updates whenever we post a new video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please smiggity smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, and please comment below with your favorite player for this NBA slate. I love to hear what you guys have to think. Thanks again, and good luck.